your responses yet. I was a bit. I had class up till pretty late. Then I made myself a cup of coffee, so I didn't have time. But so you guys still have to contribute wherever you wrote something for today. Um, I trust that you will. But so today's film is No Country for Old Men, directed by Joel and Ethan Coen, the Coen brothers, who are one of our most. Those two guys are some of our most well-respected, well-renowned directors who are still making films to this day. Some other films that they've done, you guys might know the movie Fargo, that was made in the 90s. Classic dark comedy type of movie. Really messed up comedy movie. I would recommend it. They also did The Big Lebowski, which we shall watch later in class. They did a great remake of the Western True Grit. True Grit was the original, had John Wayne. This one had Jeff Bridges in that character. They did a really excellent job with that. They did Old Brother, Where Art Thou? They directed Old Brother, Where Art Thou, which I know is a favorite of Bill's. So those are just a few. They've done a lot more than that. Those are just the ones that I know off the top of my head. I'm a fan of theirs. I like. Sometimes you never know what you're going to get with them. Like sometimes they have this really eccentric style. Sometimes they direct it pretty direct and to the point. This movie is very direct and to the point with how it was directed. This comes from a novel from Cormac McCarthy called No Country for Old Men. Cormac McCarthy is likewise one of our most respected living writers who is still writing today. He's in his 80s now, but I love Cormac McCarthy's one of my favorite. Like he's in my top 5 writers of all time. The guy's brilliant. He's done a lot of interesting fiction over the years, but he's most known for his fiction that takes place in the West. Just to give you some titles, if you're curious about Cormac McCarthy, he did a great book called Blood Meridian, which is Blood Meridian's this great meditation on American violence. Like it's one of the most violent, disgusting reads you will ever read. But it's a book that takes place in the Mexican War in the 1800s. Like you have this band of marauders who go around scalping and killing and raping and pillaging. But the book has this really interesting character who's very philosophical about like the history of violence in America and stuff. So that book is among his classics. He's also known for doing a book called All the Pretty Horses, which is a romance western. It's a really dark and pessimistic romance western, as only Cormac McCarthy can do. He's known for being a very cynical writer, very dark and dreary and nihilistic. But he did this No Country for Old Men, and his most recent book was called The Road, which takes place in post-apocalyptic America, and it's about a father and his son trying to make it in this post-apocalyptic world. That sounds kind of a cliche story, but like Cormac McCarthy helped make it cliche. Like he was one of the first writers to really do a good job with that type of story. Like I say, that's his most recent. He's very reserved. He doesn't talk about his writing much. If you're curious, Oprah, the only journalist he ever did an interview with was Oprah. Like she asked him like these really like personal questions, and he gets embarrassed talking about them. It's really awkward. So I would recommend watching that on YouTube if you're so curious. But yeah, like I said, this book, No Country for Old Men, the Coens have always been fans of Cormac. They decided to do this book of all of his other ones because it seemed the most easily adaptable to screen. And I can speak I've actually got a paper that's almost published on this novel. On the novel. The novel and book are very close. There's not many differences, except the way that Chigurh is described. Like the movie, of course, has to give us an actor of Chigurh, but Cormac doesn't do a lot to describe him in the book, which makes him even more mysterious. So yeah, we have three great performance. This movie has three main characters, right? We have Tommy Lee Jones's character, the sheriff. We have Chigurh. We also have Llewellyn Moss, played by Josh Brolin. You guys know Josh Brolin from something. He's one of those actors that's in a lot of famous stuff, including the Avengers, right? He's Thanos in the Avengers. Just some of you probably know. Yeah, as always, I shall open the floor up. What was your general impressions? I'm sure that Crystal will lead us off as is custom.
Well, no use in breaking tradition now.
Legal precedent.
Right. I actually enjoyed the film. And Dad, turn it down a little bit. I'm echoing real bad and I can't concentrate with my voice coming back at me. So I liked it. Now the ending, it kind of took me for a loop until I sat and talked about it with Dad and my uncle, because my uncle's a big movie connoisseur. I'm like, you would love our class so much. But that kind of took me. And the whole that saying that he had, what was it? Not priorities. He had what?
Principles.
Yeah, he had principles. Gosh, my mind's not working. I've been on SS Connect too long. Mind numbing, boring. So, I mean, but once we started talking about that too, it opened my eyes to, just because it's not my principles doesn't mean he didn't have his own. And I really liked what everybody wrote about. I think we're going to have a wide range of discussion today, and I liked it. I liked the whole scenery, and the realness of every time that he shot. Like whenever he shot that one guy through the back of the head when he was sitting in the truck, and it comes straight out his throat. I said, whoa, if I'm going to have to die, that's kind of like how I'd like to die, fast, easy, and painless. I didn't even know it happened. Didn't know it was coming. But I think that it has a good meaning, but it also kind of ended on how real life is. The bad guy don't always get caught. The good guy don't always win. I think greed showed its face a lot in this movie. So, I mean, I liked it.
Question: was Chigurh in the book supposed to be like 6'7" or something? Was he supposed to be super tall, or am I imagining him as super tall throughout the movie? Because I think, in my mind's eye, like I wasn't paying attention throughout, but to me it just seemed like this larger than life figure that's like 6'11" or something. And I looked up his actual height, and he's like my height.
Yeah, I can't. A couple of years. I have the book up here. I can maybe look it up while you guys are talking, but I can't remember exactly how he's. I know he's described very little. That's the only thing they describe as blue eyes. Right. That's it. Right. That's pretty much it as far as we get. I don't remember him describing the height or the weight or anything like that. Just as very cold blue eyes. Kind of like how we talked about with Henry Fonda the other day, right? The villain with these cold blue eyes.
He I don't know why, because looking back, I'm kind of questioning my own self of like, did I even pay attention that much to his height? But to me, like, it just seemed very much like he was this tall, burly, huge person, like Chief wasn't.
Right. like Chief in the Cuckoo Nest. You froze up, Corey. Yeah, you froze up on us. Hopefully, there you go.
There we go. There we go. I said he has the body. To me, at least, it looked like he had the body type of Chief from Cuckoo's Nest. That's kind of the body type I was getting from him, and it was surprising to me when I looked up and seen that he was my height. But Javier Bardem who plays Shigura is friggin' amazing. I said in my discussion, he's top 5 best villains in my opinion now, because every scene he's in, he just takes your breath away, and you don't know what's going to happen next, and he's always very measured in a serial killer type of way, but he's not doing it because he's a serial killer. He's just doing it because that's how easily he can kill. He's just killing to get the money, but he can kill just as easily as a serial killer can. And I loved it. Literally every scene. I don't think I've ever noticed an actor who steals every scene they're in.
And he's got the upper hand every time because he's so calloused. There's no remorse here. It reminded me of when Henry Fonda shot that little boy in the last movie we watched. I really like this movie, although, and I know we're going to get to this, but the ending stopped me in my tracks. So I know that's something that we'll get to. So I'll concentrate on the positive things. I thought that the Josh Brolin, I thought he did a tremendous job in this movie. I thought all 3 main actors were just great. Tommy Lee Jones he's an icon anyway. But Josh Brolin, he starts out this particular movie by making a very, very bad decision that goes with him the entire movie from the beginning till his end. And then it even goes further than that, as his wife also dies. But it was because of that decision he made. He knew he had to know what was going on because, of the setting that we see when he's hunting. Now, Crystal and I watched this show. It's called Lone Star Law. That's what it's called. And it's all about in Texas. And occasionally they will go to West Texas. And we've kind of seen these same scenes in that Lone Star Law. Those animals, deer, I think they're antelope in the West Texas. He shot one in the film. And then something intrigues him when he gets down there. He sees this pit bull running off injured. And then he makes the bad decision. And that bad decision carried on throughout the movie. I wonder if he wishes, well, apparently he didn't wish that he didn't make that decision because he had opportunity to get out and he didn't. So I thought he was a great actor, and I'm like Corey. I think we've seen the villain of villains in this particular movie. His style, I read or watched it was a little sub deal where they were talking about the different characters, and they said that he added so much to this character that this character became his. But I enjoyed it. I really thought it was a good movie.
A fun fact. I read an interview with him once that said his haircut in the movie is so peculiar. Like he was like, I couldn't wait to get rid of that haircut because I couldn't find a woman. The whole time I had that haircut. It was funny little fact. Funny little fact about his performance.
You know what was intriguing And what was intriguing when I saw an interview of him, and he was kind of jovial. He was kind of laughing, and when he was interviewed, he was easy to talk to. Totally different than the character that he portrayed. I mean, there's a real art to acting. There's no doubt, and he is proof that there is a talent.
He tried to turn the role down whenever the Coen brothers called him. He tried to turn it down, saying that he was he didn't drive, he didn't speak much English, and he wasn't all about violence. He didn't like killing people and things like that. And they said maybe that's why we did call you. And so he went ahead and done that. And also another thing that I learned was that they done that final scene in one take.
The dream sequence where he talks about the dreams. Yeah, it's funny how just think of how Tommy Lee crushed it in that final scene just for one take. I didn't know it was just one take. Since you guys are curious about Chigurh, let's talk about what makes this character so disturbing. Right, Corey, you mentioned last time that before you saw this fully, the only scene you had ever seen was the coin toss. What's the most you've ever lost in a coin toss? Right, I'll ask you guys this, the whole class this, what's his principle? If he does have principles, what are his principles? He seems to have this idea of chance, right? He thinks that chance, he sees himself as this almost indestructible force, right? But he thinks that chance helps lead you to that, helps lead him to people, right? The coins is a metaphor, right? He says, the coin has been traveling here since 1958 to get to you, right? It's been, and suddenly it's here. So what is it, heads or tails? Right. That's in that coin toss scene, maybe if this other guy wouldn't have been so nosy, right? Maybe Chigurh wouldn't have even questioned him that way. He was super nosy. And Chigurh takes exception to the fact that he married into the money to even own the gas station. He takes exception to that. So that's when he does the whole coin flip. The guy so happened to call it right, and then he says, "That's just a coin, and then don't put it in your pocket. That's your lucky coin." Right? So that whole scene is just a masterclass of the ticking time bomb, right? Right. That's the ticking time bomb at work that Crystal was educated us on during the Untouchables. Right, the ticking time. That don't know what this guy's going to do. It's so intense. So I don't know. What do you guys think about this idea of chance that he has?
I feel like he thought of himself as like a agent of faith, or like a fate. Like he himself was working towards people discovering their fate, whether it be for them to die or for them to live, or like with this whole thing of chance. And I feel like that is what kind of driven him to do what he did and everything he did. Like almost like an excuse for his actions, justification.
Right. Yeah, that's great. He's this agent of fate, right? He's maybe fate personified into a human. Right? I think, yeah, you get what's coming, right? I think he says at one point, right? So, this is almost a religious question, even, right? Nicole's going to roll her eyes over there because we talk about this a lot in my other class. But like, are our fates predestined, right, or by a higher power, right, or do we have the free choice to make our own fates? Right, this is a question that religion asks, especially Protestant Christianity, right? Chigurh seems to think people do make their own choices, right? That's what leads fate to get to them. So good comment from Regan. I don't, any of you guys want to bounce off of either of us?
I think people do make their own choices. I mean, we were given a free will. How would we be given a free will? Which is how I believe. If we didn't get to make our own choices, that's why whenever something bad happens, you can't be blaming it on God. It's kind of our mistake. But so I do think that he believes like that. His principles. I mean, maybe it's the fact that no matter what he's going through with his word. You know, if he has a mission, he's got a mission to get that money, and he's going to go and do whatever means necessary to get that money. Doesn't matter who he has to kill or whatever. Whenever he's telling, I don't know how you say his name, that the guy that took the money. Whenever he tells him, if you would come to me and pretty much sacrifice yourself and give me the money, then I won't kill your wife. But
Moss.
yeah, but if you don't, then, you know, I'm going to go kill your wife too, but I'm going to kill you. I mean, he promised him that. He knew that he was going to do that. So maybe in those type of instances, he has principles. As far as him letting someone decide at the flip of a coin, I mean, it's not my principles, but maybe that's in his way. That's him trying to give someone a chance. So that's how I feel about him. I think he was a great actor, and this was beautifully written and executed. But yeah, it's definitely gory and makes you think about what actually does happen that we don't see, because we're not law enforcement. We don't see what all does happen, and especially on that Mexican-Texas border. I'm sure there's a lot that goes down like that, a lot of blood and guts and useless killing for something that's or something that can be made or whatever again.
This could be his means of justification. It could be his means of justifying his deeds. Which, you know, a lot of times I suppose we all need to justify our deeds when we do something wrong, but he has no remorse. So it's not like he's going to go home and worry about it. Remember, in one place, Moss goes and he's lying down in a bed and he says, I can't do this, meaning I can't get any sleep here, so I might as well get up. And he's certainly lucky at that time that he did. So was it fate that he got up? Was it fate that he couldn't sleep? That's a question for each individual. But this, our villain, he is very calculated. I was impressed with how it was very seldom that he made a mistake. He always had the upper hand. He was always the hunter and not the huntee. So it's funny to me that the first scene that we see is Moss with a high-powered rifle shooting these antelope. He's the hunter. But after that decision, he becomes the hunted. So now he is being hunted by a hunter that was more calculated, probably more intelligent, and always had the upper hand greater than he did. So, you know, I think that all goes and ties in together from this writer that you mentioned to us. I think when these people write this, I do think that they're thinking about these underlining tides that, you know, we're trying to figure out. It would be interesting, wouldn't it, to talk to the writer and say, hey, did you mean for that to come that way, that this boy is up on the hill and he's hunting these deer from, and he's got the advantage because he's got the scope, he's got the power, and then he makes that wrong decision and did you mean to do that when you wrote that? So I suppose that, you know, knowing how intelligent he was, and which I think he was intelligent for what he used it for, he is quickly rising to being one of the greatest villains, I believe, that we have seen in cinema.
Yeah, we have to
As far as the writing it to come across that way, I think there's a lot of like symbolism and critical thinking to this movie. I mean, look at the ending. I think there's a lot of critical thinking in that. So whenever we get to that, I'll explain what I wrote my paper on. But I think there's a lot of that to where you can make your own analysis and you can make your own conclusion on what you think that they come across as. But they would have to think of that in depth for it to come across that way, I believe. I don't believe that they would just be that lucky that many times in the movie.
Yeah, we have to keep in mind, Moss is, like Bill said, he's the hunter at the beginning. It's not like this guy's incompetent. I mean, he served tours in Nam, he mentions. So yeah, it's not like this guy's ineffectual. I mean, he's very good at the hunting and what he does. So that just makes Chigurh even more, even more omnipotent almost, right?
You really question, sorry, you really question whether he's like superhuman. Like I know you mentioned the possibility that he's the Grim Reaper incarnate again. But like it really does seem that way because he's just indestructible. He limped, and when he took his boot off, like half of his bones were half of his bone was showing, and like he limped. Like if that happened to me, no, take me to the hospital.
What'd you guys think of his weapon of choice? Both the thing that they used to kill cattle as well as his silenced shotgun. What did you guys think of his weapons?
Again, it sets him apart. It just sets him apart. He's brilliant, is what he is.
I think that's smart on his part. I mean, yeah, that leaves a tattoo, so to speak, but it's something that's so quick. You're not going to hear someone scream. You're not going to hear the big boom of a gun go off. And he can do so much, like with the the oxygen tank or whatever they were saying that it was, like how he was just popping locks off and doing everything. So I mean, I think that it was ingenious actually if he was going to be out killing.
Yeah, it takes away from it's very impersonal, right? To treating people like cattle, right? It dehumanizes us, right? It makes us look like ants, right? In the grand scheme of things. They actually make a joke about that in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, because apparently apparently one of the characters used to be an old time butcher who would beat the cattle over the head with a hammer, right? But this new way takes away the fun of it. He's the character in that movie said.
I don't know where I heard it, if I heard it in this class or in a different class, or if I heard it in a class at all. But I'm thinking Texas Chainsaw Massacre was literally made as like a response to this way that we kill cattle. This very inhumane, just put them on hooks and all that good stuff type of way of killing them. I wish I could remember where I heard that, but I heard that from somewhere. Like that was definitely the reason why they made Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, I've always liked to view that movie as a vegan fantasy movie. Vegan propaganda. That's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah, I've always. Or go ahead, Bill.
I was just going to say I was pondering on this character, Seguro. Is that how you pronounce that?
Chigurh.
Chigurh. He why does he do what he does? I mean, he only mentions the money a couple of times, we know that's what he's after. But along the way, he keeps these promises, whether they be good ones or bad ones, generally bad ones. I was trying to figure out, why does he do this? I mean, he doesn't, we don't see him in the film answering to anyone else, the cartel or anyone else for that matter. He seems like he's, he's just calculated. That's the only word I know to use for him. And I wonder why. Is he just that evil, or is he doesn't look like he necessarily is a rich fellow from the way he dresses, but he was certainly dressing the part, I suppose.
I've always viewed this character, my reading of him in my article. I'll have to send you guys my article that I'm working on.
Love to read it.
Yeah, but my reading of him has always been, he's like the Terminator almost, right? You know, he's this very, you guys know the movie The Terminator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? He's very much this machine almost. His only drive is his next destination, right? That's always been kind of how I've viewed him, in answer to why does he do what he does. He's almost like the Terminator, but at the same time, there's lots of weird scenes in this movie. Like one of the reasons why I say he's like the Terminator is, if you remember at the beginning where he chokes the cop out when he's still got his handcuffs on. Right? Think about how painful that must have been for him, even choking the cop out of that handcuff, but cutting into his skin. Right? It didn't affect him at all. He had this there's this really great intense close up of his face while he's doing that. Then the scene where after he gets shot by Moss, he goes in the bathtub and just cleans his wounds, doesn't even flinch. Right? That's how I've always viewed him, at least, as this type of, I do think he's not human, right? I think he goes, Regan's comment about how he's like an agent of fate, right? I think she's spot on. Like, he's not human. He's almost like a machine. Ryan says, I don't think he's an evil man. His mindset is to keep his promises and to do what he thinks he needs to do. Now, I'm not saying that what he does is right by any standard, right? So his promise is his next goal, right? He always sees the goal out. So.
When we look at that first scene, well, I don't know if it's not the first scene, but where he is strangling the police officer who has got everything under control. Okay. He's got his back turned to you can tell he was just a small town policeman without a lot of training, apparently. He's got his back turned, and all of a sudden you just see this. I'm like Corey, it seemed like a giant of a man, though, we don't necessarily picture him like that physically. He comes up behind, and in some of the things I saw, they made this certain garment for the policeman to wear that looked like his neck, and it was just a big, like almost a chest protector, went all the way up the neck. And so when they could put that pressure with that with those handcuffs around his neck, it wasn't hurting the actor at all. But for our, it looks real, and of course blood starts spurting out and all, and it's really something. So I know that's not a stunt person, but it is equipment that's used in film. Where would we place that in our definitions of film definitions? What would we call that? Is it equipment? Doesn't seem like the right word for movies, but certainly is something that they use. So
The props, the mise
to make the scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I was going to mention to you guys too another curious scene. What do you guys think of the scene where he tries to shoot the crow or whatever but he misses. Crow flies away. That's this really weird scene in the movie. Like, what did you guys think that? What did you even think that meant?
I completely forgot about that scene. Completely. Honestly, I didn't even think too deep into it. I just seen the bird fly away and thought, man, that looks poorly animated. And that's all I seen.
Crows are very intelligent and they're very hard to kill. If you're out hunting, it's rare that you'll get close enough to one to shoot one with a shotgun. You just they're like that. They're able to understand kind of what's going on. I guess if I was to stretch it, I would say that he was pressing the issue to see what he could, if he can kill something that is hard to kill.
Right? Maybe the animal has a better sense as far as like what he is even than other people. That's always been the only explanation I could come up with. You guys in the comments, Ryan saying didn't make much sense to him that scene. Then Kirsten argues that with Regan that he seems like an agent of fate, deliverer of fate.
Mm-hmm.
And then she gives us some insight into the prop that they used. So let's segue. Let's talk about the sheriff character. Then we'll segue into talking about the final scene. Tommy Lee's character is this old lawman. Right, he doesn't understand all this new violence that's emerging. It seems to be above his head. Even like he steals the show in the beginning and the end. Right, at the beginning he gives the speech about how he's been a lawman for so many years and like how he couldn't understand the guy that he put on death row, that was on death row, who was like, yeah, I'm going to hell in 30 minutes, right, before he gets in the electric chair. So the whole movie, he just seems conflicted, right? This whole thing he just seems defeated almost this whole movie. And I'll just direct the floor to you guys. What did you think of this character? Maybe now's the time to bring up his dream if you want. What do you think?
All right, I'm older, the older of the group. I'm 66 years old now, and I've went through my time of working and playing ball and being very, people would look at me now and say, well, that guy never played any ball. That guy couldn't, he couldn't do that anymore. Or, as time has come on, I think people that get older, as we get older, we find that the things that we used to be able to contribute to kind of are slipping out of our fingers. I live in a world now where I keep young friends because I'm not real studious on computers and the modern technology, but I keep young friends around, and my daughter and friends that work at Southern. I keep them around for that purpose because I love them, for one, but for two, they help me along the way. My last 5 years at Southern as a director of a campus, I leaned heavily on the young ladies that worked in the office. And we had developed such a rapport, they allowed me to feel part of the team. But I can see this particular character, he feels like that he's used up his usefulness. He is not as needed as he once was. The things that they used to use as strategies for law enforcement now are different because these guys, especially this villain, he doesn't care if anybody sees him kill someone or not. So I believe that he is at this table. He's now retired and he's having a struggle to fulfill his time in a meaningful way. So I think that he's really wrestling with this issue of you know what, my time of departure is getting close, and I don't contribute as much as I used to. I think he's having a pity party, and maybe rightfully so, you know, to some degree. I'll say this and then I'll be quiet about the matter. But as we've grown up, and Crystal can testify to this, I had an uncanny ability to play ball with all the kids that were growing up in our family, and they never beat me. And the last game I played with any of the kids, whether it be one-on-one basketball or whatever, I told them, this is the last game we will play because I knew that I could beat them then, but I knew the day was coming when I could not. So I wanted to be undefeated. So I saw that my time of being able to be the best was over. And I have to accept that. I don't think that he, Tommy Lee, I don't believe he accepted it very well.
Anybody want to build off what Bill just said? That's very poetic, Bill.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I had my volume down because I could hear him and it was coming back. I think that he's seen a lot of things that I've seen in my life. You know, I've watched as it went from you didn't have to lock your doors, you didn't have to watch your kids could run around free in a neighborhood or in the mall or in a store or whatever the case may be, and it was fine. And nowadays you can't do that. And I think that he's seen more evidence of that going on, especially in law enforcement, that instead of it making him cold to it all, he decided to retire, which he was at that age as well. But I think that it was really getting to him, the evolution in the fact of the criminals and their behaviors and how that they were handling themselves. And I believe that that was just really getting to him. And he had watched his dad. His dad was also in law enforcement, and his dad paved that way, obviously in some form or fashion, or he wouldn't have followed in his footsteps. So, I mean, I believe that he was just kind of in awe at the fact of everything had changed so much and the criminals were doing so much worse and there was so much more crime, you know, from a guy that didn't have to shoot his gun to a guy that had to and was looking for people who was just mass murdering people.
We
I
have
said, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, you go ahead, Regan.
I was going to say what I wrote about was kind of opposite to what Bill said, but it kind of follows along with Crystal too. So, but I feel like he stepped down as noble. Like that's how I looked at that, not as him giving up, but to him allowing somebody else to step up and take, like how she had said, the father had forged the path. His father had forged his path. He forged the path for the next person. I feel like it kind of created hope that even though the bad guy did live and whatever got away, but that maybe in the future he wouldn't. That's how I seen it.
Yeah, it was to build off of what that's definitely a much optimistic way to look at it for sure. If you want to read the ending as hopeful and not completely dreary, nihilistic. I was going to mention to you guys the scene near the end where Tommy Lee almost comes face to face with Chigurh. Right. That's this is a nice. One of the literary terms for this type of book is called postmodernism. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that term before. Postmodernism often kind of like takes these old genres and flips them on their head a lot. So we almost come up down to the spaghetti western gunfight at the end, right? Tommy Lee versus Sugar, right? But Tommy Lee doesn't do it. He knows he's there. He knows he's there. He senses it to his bones that he's there. But he walks away. Right? He walks away. I don't know. Can any of you guys think why? Why did he walk away? He knew he was there. He knew he was there. Was it defeat, like Bill said? Did he know that he was matched? That he couldn't win?
Live to fight another day. That's how I kind of looked at it.
Right. Yes, Sugar's just sitting there waiting, all right, waiting for him to lift that curtain. But he doesn't do it.
I'm not sure what he's thinking, but he certainly is. He's meditating on it. Remember when he sat down on the bed? That was his time. That was his time to gather all the thoughts and make that decision. And of course, we remember when he's on the outside of the door getting ready to come in, he pulls his gun from his holster because he's got to be ready. And of course, he does change his mind. I always thought about that when after I watched, and I thought, why didn't he even go outside and call back up? But he didn't. He just kind of walks away from it. So I think that's another mystery of toward the end of this writer.
Right. So the two divergent views here are one's he's living to fight another day, right? Maybe the other's, like you said, Bill, he knows he can't win. He's outmatched. Um, maybe he has an ego here, right? He knows that he can't win here. So the dream then. What did you guys, you said that it took you all by surprise as first time viewers of the film. Like, then I woke up, directed by Joel and Ethan Coen. Right. So this, people either love this end or hate this end. There's no in between. It definitely goes against traditional rules of filmmaking, right? Especially in westerns. Westerns are so conventional in their endings. I don't know. What'd you make of it after some reflection? Maybe stuff we've talked about. Maybe gave you some thoughts on it. What'd you think of the end? The dreams.
Well, that's what I wrote about, is that it was for me, it was a very disappointing end. Still doesn't take away from the movie and what I think about it, because I really love the movie and the characters, the actors in it. But when I got to the end, it's like as though I wanted something more. I don't believe that I had to have a hero. But this guy walks down the street with his arm, messed up and with the boy's shirt around his neck, and he's leaving. He's won this war, this battle, and the dream I didn't understand. I really I watched it several times. I was trying to get the insight of what the dream really meant, if it meant anything. It seems like to me he's venting to his wife too, and she listens to this dream. I just didn't get clarification on it, so it leaves me as a little bit, and it should sometimes. Movies should not always be the happy guy, because Crystal and I were talking about this, and she made an interesting statement to me. She said, this is more like real life than because you know what, sometimes, and we experienced this in another movie, sometimes the bad people win. So I guess that's where I'm at. Just don't have an explanation on the dream.
So he talks about we could. I'll just pull the scene up. We can watch it as a class. Let me do that real quick. I think it's important we try to make some sense of it.
I'm glad we are because my niece came in while I was watching the last like 20 minutes of it, and I was like preoccupied in watching her and making sure she was like not getting hurt or whatever. And that's when he was talking about his dream, and I knew that would come to bite me in the butt because I knew that you would ask a question about the dream scene at the end.
So let's give it a view. Let's break it down. See what's going on.
Maybe I'll go riding.
Okay.
What do you think?
Well, I can't plan your day.
I mean, would you care to join me?
Lord, no, I'm not retired.
Maybe I'll help out here and then.
Better not. How'd you sleep?
I don't know. Had dreams.
Well, you got time for them now. Anything interesting?
There always is to the party concerned.
I'll be polite.
Then two of them both had my father in them. It's peculiar. I'm older now than he ever was by 20 years. So, in a sense, he's the younger man. Anyway, the first one I don't remember too well, but it was about meeting him in town somewhere. He gave me some money. I think I lost it. The second one, it was like we was both back in the older times. And I was a horseback going through the mountains of a night, going through this pass in the mountains. It was cold and there was snow on the ground. He rode past me and kept on going, never said nothing going by, just rode on past. He had his blanket wrapped around his head down. When he rode past, I seen he was carrying fire in a horn, the way people used to do. And I could see the horn from the light inside of it, about the color of the moon. And in a dream, I knew that he was going on ahead. He's fixing to make a fire somewhere out there in all that dark and all that cold. And I knew that whenever I got there, he'd be there. And then I woke up.
I don't know if you guys noticed the ticking top clock during the scene too, right? Thoughts after reviewing it again?
My thoughts on it from the beginning was like the first one, maybe on the money that he lost. And maybe that dream he didn't remember it so much because it was one in many of the cases that he's been on and the things that he's known, and he lost that money. He knows that he lost it. He didn't personally, but he thinks that he lost it. I think that in the second one, that's a lot of his dad, like I said, laying that foundation and that footwork into getting him interested in being a police officer or a Texas, I want to say Texas law because we watch it all the time. But, you know, he wants to do what his dad done. And maybe his dad's seen things and he actually seen things go like he has as far as the rate of crime and the different criminals and their behavior. You know, his dad seen that progress, as did he. But his dad would always be down there with that light for whenever he decided to come to it. But I don't know how to explain it in words really, but his light was more dim than what it was whenever he began his career. I worded it better in my paper, I think.
Other thoughts?
My immediate, and again, like, I don't know, I just didn't really get anything on it other than uh my only guess, and it's not really even a good one because I don't really see a strong connection, is that it's just uh he said whatever he said about he was going ahead of me and I know he'd be waiting for me. And then I woke up. I thought maybe that was representing death or something. I don't know. Like it seems possible, but at the same time, there's not really a strong connection. So
Kirsten, I'd be interested to know what you have to say about this. If you want to type something out for us, you're a good psycho and analytic person, so I'll be interested to hear what you have to say. You know, here's my insight on it, whatever it's worth. Cormac, in his work, in his next book, The Road, he also uses this image of carrying the fire a lot. You know, the father and the son in the next book, The Road, the father always, this is the most dark, dreary world there is. Like, humanity's awful. Right? This is humanity at its worst in this book. But the father always tells the boy, hey, we have to live morally, right? We have to carry the fire. Right? That's the image that he uses. So the dad in No Country, his dad, who is younger than he ever was, which that has to be a interesting thought as you get older, right? You've outlived your parents. But the dad who's younger than he ever was, he's carrying this fire through the mountains, the dark and dreary mountains. So here's a world that's completely without hope, it seems, right? Chigurh won, right? This is a world without hope. Evil is so strong that we can't contain it. But his father, who is a lawman, still carries the fire, right? Then, like Crystal said, it might be a dimming fire, right? That's what Crystal just said. It might be dimming, but the fire is still there, right? So, Regan, I'd be interested to hear what you had to say too. You reviewed this film more optimistically than most. I think this is our one. I've always interpreted it, at least, as this is our one glimpse of optimism in the movie. Right? This is the symbol of hope after all this dreary, dark stuff that evil won. So it's not as this in a way. Then this movie is not as dreary and cynical as Chinatown. I remember Chinatown, evil won. Evil got away with it. Evil got away with it here too, but there's still at least hope, it seems. So that's always been my reading, whatever it's worth. What the clock means, I don't know what the clock means. Maybe it's in his impending death or something like that, right?
I think that's partly why. Sorry, Reagan. My bad. I think that's partly why I thought it was death. Why I thought it was signify death was the clock at the end. Anyways, Reagan, go ahead. My bad.
I was going to say that is what I used to prove, like how I looked at that as hope instead of it being so negative. Like I looked at that as his father, the fire, him carrying that fire was him, like the fight against the criminal, which would be the darkness, and then he would be carrying the fire on ahead too for somebody else. That's how I kind of looked at it. Like he was blazing the path his father did, then he was next, and then on and on.
Right? Maybe he feels guilt that he's not personally carrying the fire too, right? That could possibly be another part of it.
He's certainly not content with the state he's in. The wife has an interesting comment. She says, I can't plan your day for you. I believe they've had this conversation before. Because then he says he's going to go riding. Will you want to go with me? No, I'm still working. So then he changes what he thinks he might do today. Um, and then when the dream comes along, I couldn't connect the two. I saw him as someone who's really struggling with what do I do now? Perhaps he had carried this torch this long and did a good job. He was well respected. But now he's not carrying this torch anymore. He doesn't even know what to do with himself during the day. So I guess I was a little bit pessimistic about it. But I can't get away from it. So all in all, I mean, the movie for me was, I would rate it very highly because it leaves me wondering, which is a good thing, I suppose.
Right. It definitely subverts our expectations, right? To quote Ryan Johnson, who made a crappy Star Wars movie, right? It definitely subverts our expectations of like what an ending is in a Western. The good guy triumphs, all this good stuff. Yeah, I saw a smile there from Corey. He knows that Ryan Johnson's Star Wars movie really stunk. So
Yeah, he's not looked on the best in the community.
Yeah, so hopefully our discussing it hope to give some insight as to what it might mean. I love endings like this. I love endings that leave you with questions instead of answers. I thought it was that's how the book ends too, though. It's how the book ends. Nothing's different. So it wasn't the Coens trying to be sneaky or whatever. That's literally how the book ends with this dream too. The only difference is in the book, you get a lot more insight about his father throughout the book. So it doesn't seem quite as jarring at the end.
I know the Coen brothers. Sorry, I know the Coen brothers are like very. They demand a lot from their actors in terms of they don't let them ad lib at all. Like a lot of directors will be like, if you feel like this line works better than this line, you go ahead and make it work, and we'll see how it pans out at the end. And the Coen brothers are like, no, you read what we said word for word. So I guess they kind of take that same type of energy with taking stuff out of a book.
This did bring a lot of thinking for me when he got to this point and he makes a statement that he says he's the younger man now. You really don't grab a hold of that until you have lived longer than both your parents did, which I have. I've outlived both my parents. And you don't think it, but if you believe in there's an afterlife and you wonder, well, if there's an afterlife and we get to talk to each other, we get to see each other, am I then going to be older than my parents were? Which, I don't think that, but it does put something in your mind. I've lived almost 30 years longer than my father and 12 years longer than my mom. So, 5 years longer than my mom so far. So it did bring about some of those thoughts in my head, about, I've outlived my parents. So I think as you probably wouldn't think of that being younger people, but as you get older, you know that your time of departure is not too far away. So kind of, I think for an opinion, all that stuff comes into play, and our opinions do change as we get older.
Bill, you're who I want to be when I grow up. Honestly, your outlook on a lot of things is just really on point, honestly.
Well, thank you, Corey. I really appreciate that. I really, really do. That's
Yeah, you add a lot of wisdom to the class, right? we all definitely appreciate.
I appreciate that, Corey, because my dad's my hero. And I love when people say things like that. I just beam with pride every time he's doing anything, whether it's him taking a class or him speaking or preaching or singing or anything that he does. I beam with pride about that. So when someone else compliments him like that, and that's a great compliment, I appreciate it too. We think very highly of you because he always says he's wanting to come down and meet you. We talk about you all the time.
Same with y'all. I wish we could take this class in person. I feel like it'd be a lot more fun.
Well, supposedly after the 22nd, we all have to be back on campus, the staff and faculty. So maybe we could get away with it once. Maybe. Right. It's possible. Right. So, of course, the way that the class was set up, you guys would have all been on your different campuses, and we would have still talked to each other on a TV screen. So I guess, you guys have probably, some of you guys have probably had classes like that before here. That they're always a little disconcerting and awkward in their own right. Yeah, like Crystal's mentioned having a movie club after this class. I don't oppose it. I think it would be fun if we all still got together sometimes and discuss this stuff.
I don't think once a month would be too much. I mean, that way, no matter what you got going on, everybody, like these women have book clubs once a month. What's the difference? We'd have a month to watch the movie or movies. We could discuss one or two. I mean, and be able to get together and pull some other people in. I know my uncle absolutely loves movies, and he would enjoy that. Both my uncles actually on both sides. And they would enjoy something like that. So, I mean, I wish that we could do that. I mean, I'm all up for it. I'll organize it. I don't care.
I'd love to be part of something like that.
Yeah, we've missed you, Nicole. We have missed you the last couple of weeks.
Thank y'all. I've just had some crazy stuff going on. I should be here consistently though for the rest of the time.
Yeah, we really missed you last class. We were talking about the female character in Once Upon a Time in the West. Like, we need Cole here right now.
I actually like, when everybody talks, like Kirsten, Reagan, and Ryan, whenever they talk, they deliver a lot of insight that I don't think about. And I even put that on my response to Kirsten that, I love what she has to say. It's always interesting. And I feel that way about everybody in this class. I don't think it's just, one or two people. I think the whole class has some very interesting points. And I love to hear when everybody else speaks. I try to be quiet sometimes just so that other people will speak because I'm a little domineering sometimes. I don't mean to be.
Oh, I can be that way too. Just Mr. Yeager knows I have 3 classes with him this semester. But I think, not really strangely, but I think honestly some of the hardest subjects to talk about really bring the best conversation, especially in this class. I think we all do really good about being open and just really hearing everybody.
We still have some great films left. Sci-fi genre, the horror genre, comedies. That's what we have left. So.
What's next? Blade Runner or what?
Next Thursday is 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Mm.
So next Tuesday we're not watching a film. That'll be a day I talk paper. So yeah, 2001: A Space Odyssey is our next film. Keep No Country in the back of your pocket. There's some stuff that we didn't get to talk about today that I'd like to talk about a little bit more. We didn't talk about the filmmaking aspects much. We were so involved in the plot. So let's talk. Well, it won't take me the whole class next time to go over paper. So we will pick up our discussion on the again next time, because there's some stuff we still haven't.
It's as low as it'll go.
Yeah, there's
Come
still
over here.
there's still some stuff we still haven't talked about. So let's pick it up again next time. In addition to talking paper.
Did you decide if you were going to wait till after spring break before our
Yeah.
paper was due or what?
Yeah, this paper will be due after spring break. Yeah. So you don't have to worry about it in any time in the immediate future. But I'll talk the writing of it next time. The next time will be a craft and shop kind of day. And English class kind of day. All right. So that's the side of me you guys haven't got in this class. It's the English teacher side. So now here it comes. Brace yourself.
Y'all should be absolutely terrified.
You should be. Yeah.
Believe me, it made it all the way to the Boone campus about how hard he is. So I know, I've been warned.
I think that's hilarious because I don't think I'm that hard at all.
Now, I might be biased because you're the only English professor I've had at Southern so far, but from my experience, you're pretty good.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think he just is college level. He's not high school level. He's college level, and that's the way it needs to be. I mean, we're in college. We're not in high school, and doing crap work is not acceptable. So I think he just wants what's best out of everybody and just wants what was expected of him. So I think I love him as a teacher. I said I would take anything that he had. If I hadn't had all my Englishes, everything, I'd be taking it from him.
What do you think, Ryan? Am I super hard? Did I make your life hard, Ryan?
How many things I gotta do this weekend? And the essays that I just got assigned. My life is a living hell. I actually managed to get back on my computer, surprisingly enough, so I can talk now.
Did you ever get the PS5 ordered for real?
No. It's not even in stock anymore, not even a chance.
Bummer.
Last class, Ryan and I both were trying to order a PS5 during class.
I was paying more attention to my other screen than I was to the class.
During
I wanted the PS5. I actually thought about just not going at all.
I don't know if any of you guys haven't had your speech class yet, but I also teach speech class normally in the fall. So if you haven't had that class, you can maybe take me for that next semester.
Can I just pop in on one of your classes and not get graded?
Not sure. Yeah.
I'll just monitor the class because I've had everything I can take.
Yeah, I teach a little bit of everything. American Lit. That's what I did my doctorate on. But I do some British Lit. I like to think I'm well-rounded.
Absolutely.
So we're past their time for today. So I guess we'll see you guys next time. So have a good weekend.
Bye, guys. Dr. Yeager, I have surgery Tuesday or Monday. So Tuesday I'll be here, but I'm sure that I will not be on camera.
That's
And
fine.
I'm sure that I'll be. I don't know how I'll feel that day, but
You're not
on
gonna-
Thursday I'll be there.
You're not like your Jake from Chinatown Bandy John.
It's exactly. I'm gonna have black eyes. And Brittany said she's gonna take a picture of me and start sending it to people and say, "This is what happens whenever you do this or when you do that." Act like she's beat me up. But I mean, I will be here. I just won't have my camera on. So.
Yeah, that's no big deal.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, see you guys.
Bye.